My name is Eric, and I learned the hard way that betrayal doesn't always come with malice. More often than not, it hides behind familiar eyes and a trusted smile. I built my life on loyalty and hard work, believing that if I gave everything to my job, my marriage, and the future I dreamed of, the universe would eventually reward me. For years, I truly believed it had. My career was thriving, I was married to a woman I adored, and the road ahead looked promising. I worked at one of the top financial firms, putting in long hours while my coworkers shut their laptops and left at 5 p.m. sharp. I wasn't just working, I was building something meaningful, something lasting. After years of sacrifice, I finally felt like my efforts were about to pay off. Company's annual gala wasn't just a fancy evening. It was the event where careers took off, where promotions weren't whispered in private but announced for all to see. It was a night where reputations were made. And that year, I was a top contender for one of the most sought-after positions in the firm. It wasn't just about the salary. It was about recognition, proof that every late night and missed holiday had been worth it. Jolyn, my wife, the woman I had built my life around, was supposed to be there to share that moment with me. She wasn't just my partner, she was the one person I trusted completely. Never once had I doubted her devotion. Until that night. The venue was breathtaking. Golden chandeliers cast a warm glow over elegantly decorated tables. Crystal stemware sparkled, silverware gleamed, and the air was thick with ambition. I walked in proudly, my hand resting lightly on Jolyn's waist. This was the night that could change everything, and she was right there beside me, exactly where I believed she belonged. Jolyn had always been captivating, but that evening she was on another level. Her black dress fit like a second skin, her hair fell in soft waves, and her smile seemed to brighten every corner of the room. People noticed. They always did. And when she spoke, conversations slowed. When she laughed, heads turned. For the first stretch of the evening, everything felt exactly right. I introduced her to my colleagues, and as always, she charmed everyone she met. Jolyn had a gift. She made people feel important, seen. But then, something shifted. It was subtle at first, so small I almost brushed it off. A glance, just a flicker of eye contact I barely registered. But then I saw where her attention landed. Or more accurately, on whom? Luke. My boss. The man who had built the company from the ground up. Charismatic, razor-sharp, effortlessly influential. He didn't just lead. He embodied the firm's success. And Jolyn, she wasn't just looking at him. She was watching him, as if the rest of the room had disappeared. Not a glance. A stare. Focused. Intent. Then Luke looked back. A smirk tugged at the corner of his mouth, subtle, knowing. He recognized the look she gave him. And he didn't shy away from it. He welcomed it. Something inside me clenched. Jolyn turned her attention away just as quickly, laughing lightly at someone's comment, her tone breezy, effortless. But moments later, her gaze drifted right back to him. I exhaled slowly, reaching for my drink, trying to convince myself it meant nothing, that I was being paranoid. I forced myself to engage in the chatter around me, smiling where expected, nodding at the right moments. But something felt off. It was like the room had gone cold, like I was no longer part of the scene but watching from the outside. And then, without realizing when it happened, I saw them together. Standing side by side. Talking. Laughing. Jolyn leaned in just slightly, her hand brushing his sleeve in a way that could have seemed harmless. Except to me. I gripped my glass a little tighter. The music, the voices, the clinking glasses all faded into background noise. All I could see was them. Luke leaned in as she spoke, his grin wide, genuine. And then, she did something that made my stomach knot. She tucked her hair behind her ear. A tiny, habitual movement. One I knew all too well. Jolyn only did that when she was feeling shy. Or when she was flirting. My jaw clenched. Then, for the first time that evening, our eyes met. For just a second, her expression faltered. A flicker of something she hadn't meant to show. Guilt. It was there, quick as a flash of lightning. But I caught it. Crack in the facade. And then, just like that, it was gone. She smiled at me as if nothing had happened. As if I was imagining things. But I wasn't. She stayed close to Luke for the rest of the evening. I did my best to act unaffected, to keep up appearances, to stay present, but I couldn't stop glancing over. She laughed too hard at his jokes. Her hand kept finding its way back to his arm, fingers resting there a moment too long. And Luke, he leaned into it. He wasn't just accepting her attention, he was encouraging it. His hand brushed the small of her back. Light. Subtle. But unmistakably intimate. I wanted so badly to believe I was wrong, that I was misreading the situation. But the sinking feeling in my gut told me otherwise. Then, at some point, Jolene reappeared beside me. Her touch on my arm was casual. "I have to take a call," she said, holding up her phone just enough for me to glimpse the screen. No name. Just a number. Something didn't feel right. "Okay," I answered, careful to keep my voice steady. She smiled, kissed me on the cheek like everything was normal, and disappeared into the crowd. I watched her go, a strange dryness in my throat. 5 minutes passed. Then Luke vanished too. That's when the cold reality set in. I scanned the room, my eyes darting from the bar to the dance floor, then to the balcony beyond the glass doors. Nothing. And then it struck me, I hadn't seen either of them for nearly 20 minutes. Tightness coiled in my chest. I set my drink down on a nearby table, my hands balling into fists. Then I started moving. Slipping between clusters of people, weaving through laughter, chatter, and thumping music. The sound faded as I stepped into a dimly lit hallway. Then I heard it. Faint laughter. Muffled. Concealed. I froze. My heart hammered. A low whisper followed. Then a moan. Quiet. But clear. Cold rush spread through my veins. My breath steadied as I followed the sound. One of the doors down the corridor was slightly ajar, a sliver of warm light bleeding into the hall. I pulled out my phone. Pressed record. Then pushed the door open. And there they were. Jolene. Luke. Her back pressed against the wall. His hands gripping her hips. Her fingers tangled in the fabric of his suit. His lips trailing along her neck. My stomach turned. They both froze. Caught mid-motion. I didn't speak right away. Camera had already captured the scene. Then my voice cut through the air, calm. Razor sharp. "This is Jolene, my wife. And Luke, my boss. And this is what betrayal looks like." Jolene jumped back, eyes wide with panic. "Eric," she stuttered, but I wasn't listening. Luke raised his hands, his voice fumbling. "Wait, man, this isn't." He didn't finish. I slipped my phone into my pocket and drove my fist straight into his jaw. He stumbled backward, clutching his face in pain. I didn't give him time to recover. Grabbing his collar, I yanked him forward and dragged him through the hallway. The main doors burst open as I shoved him into the middle of the party. Music. Laughter. Clinking glasses. Not for long. A hush spread like wildfire. Heads turned. Conversations stopped. I didn't hesitate. My voice rang out, sharp and unshaken. "Want to know who this guy is?" I looked around, meeting every stunned face. "He's the one sleeping with my wife." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Faces shifted, shock, confusion, pity. Jolene stood frozen in the doorway, the color drained from her face. Luke wrenched free from my grip, his expression twisted in desperation. "Eric." Jolene's voice cracked. "Please." I met her gaze, my stare like ice. "It's over." And then I turned and walked away. No more words. Nothing left to say. I didn't touch the radio as I drove. Just silence. The city lights blurred past the windshield, but my mind had never been clearer. My phone buzzed. Again. And again. I didn't check it. I already knew who it was. When I pulled into the driveway, I just sat there for a moment, staring at the house I once called home. It looked the same. But it wasn't. Now it was just a facade. Hollow walls. Empty vows. Inside, I moved like a guest. I found a suitcase and started packing whatever I needed. There was no chance I'd sleep here again. Not in that bed. The phone kept buzzing. I finally glanced at the screen. 12 missed calls. All from Jolene. I could have turned it off. But I didn't. I let it ring. Let her sit in that uncertainty. Let the weight of her choices sink in. Just as I zipped the bag and reached for my keys, the front door slammed open. Jolene stood there, breathless, streaks of mascara tracing down her cheeks. Her chest rose and fell with ragged sobs. "Eric, please. Just hear me out." I shook my head, a bitter laugh escaping. "There's nothing left to hear." I stepped toward the door, but she caught my arm, her grip unsteady. "It was a mistake," she said, her voice breaking. "It didn't mean anything. Don't throw us away over this." I turned to face her, eyes burning. "A mistake." My voice was eerily calm. "You humiliated me. In front of people I work with. My friends. And now you want to talk about saving our marriage?" Tears streamed down her face as she clung to my arm. "I love you," she whispered. I pulled free, her touch like fire on my skin. "You lost the right to say that," I said quietly. "You had a choice." Her face crumpled. She reached out again, desperation in her every movement. "Eric, please." My voice was low and final. "We're done. I'm filing for divorce." The words struck her like a blow. She staggered, sobbing, broken. I didn't stay. And no more pleading. No more apologies. I stepped out the door, her cries echoing behind me. That night, I drove to a hotel and checked in. The bed was stiff. The room bare. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, eyes wide open. Sleep never came. Only silence and memories. Jolene's shock in the lounge. Luke's smile vanishing the moment our eyes met. Her desperate voice trailing behind me as I walked away. None of it mattered anymore. The following morning, I stood under a hot stream of water until my thoughts cleared. Dressed. Walked straight to the highest-rated divorce lawyer I could find. Sitting across from him, my jaw locked tight, fingers interlaced, I didn't waver. "I want a divorce," I said plainly. "And I want to make sure she walks away with as little as the law allows." He nodded once and flipped open a blank legal pad. "Leave it to me." With that process underway, my next move was clear. Luke. I walked into the office building with purpose, ignoring casual hellos from colleagues as I headed straight to human resources. By the time the sun set, people would view me differently. I took a seat across from Peggy, the head of HR, and slid my phone across her desk. "You'll want to watch this." I tapped play. Luke's image filled the screen, his arms wrapped around my wife. Peggy's posture stiffened as the footage unfolded. We said nothing while the clip ran. Jolene leaned into him, her body language giving everything away. A brief kiss followed, casual, familiar, erasing any doubt. When the video ended, Peggy drew in a long breath, her lips pressed into a tight line. "This is serious." "There's more," I told her. "Luke's been abusing his position here for months. People have whispered about it, but nobody wanted to be the first to step up. I'm stepping up." She didn't hesitate. An internal investigation began that same day. Then the stories came out. Counts from women who had been misled, pressured, deceived by Luke's empty promises of promotions and influence. By the end of the week, he was finished. Fired. His reputation? Shattered. 2 days later, the divorce papers were delivered to Jolene. No warning. No phone call. Just the same cold finality she had given me when she chose someone else. I handed her an envelope instead of a goodbye. And that's when the messages began. Please don't do this, Eric. Can we talk? I love you. I miss you. I read every one, but I never replied. A few days passed before I returned to the house. Not out of nostalgia, just to collect a few things I hadn't grabbed before, items I didn't want to lose. As I pulled into the driveway, I noticed a sleek black car parked out front. One I didn't recognize. My hands clenched around the steering wheel. I got out slowly, instincts already firing. Inside, the house felt hollow. No TV. No voices. Just thick, eerie silence. Until I heard something. Faint noises from the hallway. My chest tightened. Then again. Soft. Unmistakable. Moans. From the bedroom. I didn't stop. I walked straight down the hall and pushed open the door. There they were. Jolin and Luke. Twisted together in the bed that used to be ours. Time froze. Luke's face went pale, caught between speaking and saying nothing. Jolin scrambled to grab the sheets, her eyes huge and panicked. Eric, she whispered my name. But what I saw in her expression wasn't remorse. It was fear. Not fear of losing me, fear of being caught. She thought she'd gotten away with it. That I'd never know. That I'd keep living in the dark, still believing I mattered to her. For a long moment, no one moved. Then her face changed. Hardened. What are you doing here? She snapped, irritation creeping into her voice. I let out a short, joyless laugh. Not because it was funny. 'Cause it was pathetic. That was what she had to say? No apology. No explanation. Just what are you doing here, like I was the intruder. I looked from her to Luke, then to the bed that no longer felt like anything of mine. I gave a slow shake of my head. I made the right decision, I said softly. Then I turned away. No shouting. No dramatic outburst. I didn't need it. I had the clarity I came for. She had cried. She had begged. Claimed she still loved me. And less than 2 days later, she invited him back, into our home. Our bed. That told me everything I needed to know. I closed the door behind me. And I never looked back. The weeks after that were all about starting fresh. I found a small apartment. No memories. No lies. Just a blank page. Life got quieter. Simpler. Work. Gym. A drink here and there with friends who actually cared. Nothing chaotic. Nothing fake. But it was mine. The divorce wrapped up quicker than expected. Jolin didn't contest it. She kept the house and took a small part of my savings. I didn't fight it. Then I heard something that nearly made me laugh. Luke dumped her. Didn't take long. Maybe a couple of months at most. He got what he came for. And when the novelty faded, he disappeared. Just like I always suspected he would. I can only imagine her face when it hit her, how she burned her life to the ground for someone who walked away like it meant nothing. Right on schedule, the final message came through. Eric, please. Can we talk? There was a time when those words would have broken me. But not anymore. I stared at the screen. Then I erased the message. And I moved on. 'Cause not everything is worth saving.